has only just begun! Victory requires
The newcomer brings a smaller warband to the field. An interesting strategy. Facing off against the outsider is... Helm of the Namahu tribe! Attack!
Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming, and a new video on the channel going over the build I've transitioned into, which is Lightning Strike Champion. Now, I'm not necessarily recommending this build, it's just to show you what I've gone into. I'm a bit of a sucker for Lightning Strike. It is definitely not one of the best builds, it's just a build I enjoy playing. So I'm mainly doing Trial of the Ancestors, and I found that even though it's a melee skill, it's got range that comes out of it. So it definitely helps for keeping things off of your totems. And once you get to the higher levels, it's more about distracting and stopping them hitting your totems than outright killing stuff, because the tanky enemies you're just not going to kill. But with Vaal Lightning Strike and Vaal charges, you can sort of run around and you can hit a lot of the battlefield with your melee or a champion. We're nice and quick. So it's fairly easy to stay alive unless you're against some really, really difficult opponents. So what we'll do, we'll just do the first round of a tournament. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go through a few rounds until I get a decent reward, and then we'll go through the strategy that I use. Then we'll go through the character, why I've built it, and what I plan to do with it. So straight away, we've been offered 4 divines. So this is about the 3rd or 4th time I've been offered this, and I've won every single one. So this is probably the jinx. Now this is obviously the first round, and they have got a fairly decent team, but nothing we shouldn't be able to deal with. These are going to be problems in defense. These two are going to be massive problems. So we'll go and set up our strongest on the flanks, and then we'll have 2 to attack. And then I'm just going to basically be a distraction. That's really what I tend to do at this level, because you're going to get one shot by a lot of stuff anyway for particular tribes. This tribe I'm normally okay against. So all I'm going to do is try and keep them away from my totems and hope that my team get in and get one totem down. If they do, then I'm going straight in to help them out. So we can see right now my team are doing okay. I just want to make sure I don't get stunned, because the last thing I want to do is die like this. That was not bright. So we can take out like the flankers, because they're not too bad in terms of their health. So we'll do that. And then we'll go and see if we can help our team out. We don't seem to have done much with totems, which is a shame. Okay, so we got one of their dangerous ones down. So this one's going to be tight, but now I'm just going to flip between attack and defense. Now I can see we're getting a totem down, so we're going to do that. And we should be okay from... Oh, I should have killed that person. That was really bad, but we're fine. And that's kind of my tactic at this stage, is be a diversion rather than do anything. Let my flankers go and get the totems. Let my attackers go and kill enemies. We may as well kill this person because we've got no health left. And just keep an eye on my totems against theirs. If I feel I've got an advantage and we've got more totems down, I'm going to rush to get those totems. And Vaal Lightning Strike works really well with a champion because you've got Adrenaline, we're really, really quick. Vaal Lightning Strike's got really good coverage. And I'm not failing many rounds. And luckily, when I am failing, they're not particularly good rewards. That, I think, is the third or fourth multi-divine rewards I've had, which is nice. So we're already stacking up a decent amount of divines from the league mechanic. So what we'll do is go through the build. And then I will do a very quick map showcase. And then we'll close out. I don't want the video to be too long. So it's a nice, easy transition from Rain of Arrows because a lot of the gear I'm going to use on this character. So let's go through the gear. I'm not going to go through crafting because I don't think I've built the character particularly well. I've tried to do it on sort of a budget. So we've got a claw here. Normally you'd look and see Imperial claws on these sort of builds. Only reason I've gone for a different claw is because these are 5C fractured. Imperial claws are 4 to 5 divines. The only difference with an Imperial Claw really is that you get life on hit. But we can get instant leech from the tree. So although this isn't as good defensively, I wanted to try and build this slightly on the cheap because I didn't know whether I was going to enjoy playing the build. So I bought this claw for 5C. Spammed some essences until I can multi-mod it. And I've gone for 2 LE damage and pen. And for Lightning Strike builds, it's better than triple elemental unless you're playing Omni or unless you get triple T1, which is very unlikely. I've searched for claws that were 12 divines for much, much higher LE DPS than this, and they lower my POB DPS because elemental penetration is massive if you're not running Omniscience. We have a Blizzard Crown, which was about 100C for the base, which is Lightning Strike fires additional projectiles, which you do need because it fires 3 on its own, and that's not really good enough for clear. I've got the same amulet, Fractured Crit Multi with some attributes, life, and proj damage when I wanted to unveil something else. The shield was really cheap. I think the base was 5C. I've just gone for max avoid elemental ailments. And then I've rolled with life essences until I've hit suppression. The boots I carried across from the Rain of Arrows build. So for LE ailments, you don't need this much on them because with my shield alone, which is 35, and these boots, that brings me to 90 and I take 20 on the tree. So I'm 10 over for my ailment avoidance. The gloves, I've kept the same pair. I've just rolled implicits. This was really the only expensive item because I wanted to push the strike skills up to +2. So we've gone for Pierce, strike additional targets, Chaos Res, life, accuracy, resistances. The body armor, again, this is just I've rolled to get big armor and evasion with some life and resistances. And we're combining this with the life mastery that gives a 15% increased life if you don't have life on your body armor, and I don't. The jewelry I've changed slightly, but again, it's just life and resistances. And we've got non-channeling on one. And then I've actually just gone and run a taming on the other because it gives really big damage. I feel like I'm tanky enough. And this does add, I think, about 10% more DPS when I put this on over a normal ring. Flasks are exactly the same. Granite, diamond, jade, quicksilver, and a life flask. The changes come mainly in the passive tree. So I've gone for a lethal pride instead. And I managed to get a triple double damage one for 1 divine. So we've got double damage here, which is not an ideal node, but it does give damage, and pathing to get double damage, it's definitely worth it. And then I think there's double damage here, and then there is somewhere else as well. Where's the other double damage? There is definitely... Oh, it's up here on multi-shot. There's another double damage. So the reason this was probably a bit cheap is because that node you wouldn't normally take on a lethal pride, and you wouldn't normally take this, but picking up a triple double damage for 1 divine was very nice. We're also running an impossible escape that allocates perfect agony. Well, it doesn't. It allocates nodes from perfect agony because then I can pick up Mark the Prey from the shadows, which gives us big elusive effect. We can get our multi-shot for an extra projectile, and we can get Pierce. If I wanted to, I could take this node for 1 more Pierce, but I think 2 with the 1 on the gloves is working absolutely fine. And then just a jewel here to fill in the empty slot in the cluster jewel. I've just gone for as many nice stats as I could get. And then we've still got the same Watcher's Eye, which is just attack damage while affected by precision. So the cluster jewels, I'm still running the same large cluster jewel. It's Prismatic Heart and Sadist. The mediums is where we switch it out because before it was projectile damage, which does do stuff for Lightning Strike, but it only affects the projectile part of it. So we're going for one medium cluster, which is non-damaging ailments. And I've gone for Overshock, which gives big lightning damage and a very big increase to lightning ailments, which means more shock. And then Storm Rider, which gives me power charges when I shock a chilled enemy, which happens all the time. With the Rain of Arrows build, I was generating power charges and frenzy charges from Manifold's arrows, which you obviously can't do from Lightning Strike. In terms of frenzy charges, I don't have a way to get them on bosses because they would normally come from this mastery. So I can use Blood Rage if I want when mapping, but I don't feel that I need to. I think the ideal thing probably is to get a chest with Frenzy on hit, maybe Awaken or Orbit with Endurance Charge when you get hit, spend a bit of money to get a decent chest piece, and then I think that's going to be the best way to get Frenzies in the build, and it gives me more defenses from Endurance Charges. And then the other medium cluster is Pressure Points and Basics of Pain, just some more crit chance and more double damage chance. So overall, we've got 20% chance to deal double damage. We have increased lightning ailments here, and then we take this mastery here for 50% more effect of non-damaging ailments, and I can get my shock up to anywhere between 30 to 50% depending on the enemy, which is a big damage increase. And that's kind of why I run Awakened Added Lightning in my gems, which we'll come on to in a moment. POB may say it's slightly less damage than other gems, but you have to factor in the much bigger shock you're going to get from dealing big chunks of lightning damage. The tattoos don't really matter what you use. I'm just using it to cap out my suppression, get some more life, maybe get some chaos rays, attributes. You can use whatever you want here. The only one I'd definitely run is Loyal Tattoo of Rakiata, because on bosses it gives you really big tailwind or action speed increase. It just really helps for fights. It gives you a 12-second buff, and with this build you're going to get most stuff down within a couple of seconds. And then obviously we've changed the tree out to go for a claw build. So we've taken the claw wheel and the Nightblade effect wheel there. I'll put the POB in the description. I won't go through the tree too much because it's kind of the standard tree I would take for a Lightning Strike build. In terms of gem links, I've not got any Awakened gems at the moment. So we've got our Vaal Lightning Strike, just normal unqualified Vaal Lightning Strike, Nightblade support, Trinity support, Awakened Added Lightning to help get bigger shocks, LE damage with attacks, and Divergent Inspiration to bring the mana cost down. That allows me to then run the Taming. We have Assassin's Mark, Mark on Hit, Life Tap support. Then I've got an Ancestral Protector and a Molten Shell, which I use on left click. And then a Dash as my movement skill if I can't use Whirling Blades. And then Defiance Banner. And then I've got Whirling Blades linked to faster attacks. We have Life Tap, Corrupting Fever, and Second Wind. And then down here I've got a Blood Rage, which I should use for frenzy charges, but I don't really tend to use it. I don't feel I need it, but I should be using it. And then here we've got auras. So I've got an Enlighten level 3, Anger, Precision, and Determination. If you've got enough of the 1% reservation tattoos, I don't think you would need Enlighten because your mana would get up to sort of 40 or 50. But I've only got one of the tattoos in at the moment. But you could, if you wanted to, not bother with this. So we'll just go through and do a couple of quick maps. So I've gone back to my boss rushing strategy. I just find it more enjoyable and I found it actually more profitable than the other mechanics I've tried. So all I'm doing is Alk and Go, and I'm just looking out really for less damage from crit because I'm taking the big top hat on the tree. And this means you end up with like 60% less damage from crit. It can feel a little bit nasty. But the main one I'm looking for is reduced aura effect because champion scales aura effect a lot. Because I'm taking the top hat, this can get up to like 80% and then it makes the build feel a lot worse. It could still do it. I just think for the sake of a scour and an Alk, you might as well re-roll it. So we'll do a City Square and we will do a Crimson Temple. I'm not bothering chiseling because it's really just an Alk and Go strategy. And we're just trying to get really as many boss maps as we can. And then I'm also running those boss maps and the invitations just to put the build through its paces, and it's performing really well. So really at the beginning, you just go into the boss, which is City Squares down here. I'm giving it a little while because if you kill it too quick, sometimes the extra bosses don't spawn. So we've got 2 headhunters. No, we've got 2 worms molts. And that's kind of it. That's the map done. We'll go and do the next one. And this build just works really well for it. You can clear screens pretty easily. It's very, very quick. Whirling Blades is a very nice movement skill to use when you just want to get through the map. So we can literally just progress like so. We'll take silver coins for League Mechanic. Although I probably shouldn't be picking them up. I think we could just bulk buy them. And it's probably better than actually picking them up. So we'll obviously pick up maps as we go through to keep sustain up. So then we'll go in here. Just going to make sure that the extra bosses spawn. There they go. And as you can see, the single target compared to Vaal Rain of Arrows, because you've got your Vaal skill, is far, far superior. I do still slightly prefer the playstyle for Vaal Rain of Arrows, but this just means I can push harder content where you need a bit more single target damage. And from that map, we got 2 Drox maps, which is nice. So that's kind of it for what I've transitioned into, because a lot of people have been noticing that my profile has changed from Rain of Arrows to Vaal Lightning Strike. It's just to bring out a video to show what I've done so far with the build. I don't think I need to do much more with it. I could go Omniscience and get much more damage out of it, but this does everything that I want it to do. I'm having fun with it. I don't really want to spend any more money than this on the character, so this is probably this character finish for me. And then all of the vines that I farm from the League Mechanic on my Atlas strategy is then going to go into a build that I can pump massive DPS into. This you can, but it does have a ceiling realistically, and it's going to cost a lot of money to get it doing something like Uber bosses, where I think there's other builds if I wanted to try and tackle that content that I could do cheaper. And I would like to try a build I've never done before. This league so far I've done Rain of Arrows, which I've done to death, and Vaal Lightning Strike, which I've done to death. So the next build is probably going to be some sort of spell-based build. I very rarely play them. It's not going to be my own build because I know nothing about those sort of builds. I'm just going to go on YouTube, PoE Ninja, see what looks good, and then we'll get cracking on that build. But I want to farm at least 100 to 150 divines before I do that, so I've got a decent stack to put into it. That's kind of it for the video. It's really just to show what I transitioned into. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and see you in the next one.